talk about student debt. As most of you know, this building gets more political activity than any other building in the United States. We have had almost every announced candidate here over the past 60 days, and we will continue to have activity leading up to the primaries in February. So we're delighted to have you here. We are very interested to hear the conversation that takes place, and I'll hand it off to the governor. Thank you.
Dr. Silva, thanks very much, and thank you all for being here, especially all of you who are going to share your stories. I talked to one person in the holding room, and he said, I suppose I'm here because of my college debt. And I said, well, that's why I'm here. I'm here because of the college debt as well. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to lay out a proposal, a plan, some ideas for how we move to that point on our country's horizon where the option of going to college debt-free is universal and open to everybody, every family that should choose, every family that should plan. People do make choices, but as a nation, we have to make sure that we create a universal option for debt-free college for all families if they should so choose. So look, just a couple of thoughts. Let me share with you my story. I went around the room and I asked each of you your stories. And here's my story. I was born one of 6 kids to Tom and Barbara O'Malley. They were born into the Depression. My dad flew 33 missions over Japan in a B-24 Liberator. And only because of that experience, along with thousands and thousands of GIs, was he able to go to college. Otherwise, there's no way his family would have been able to afford it. So on the GI Bill, he went to college, and so did all sorts of other people of that generation in our country. And what happened as a result? We had the biggest growth of America's middle class and the ranks of our middle class that we've ever seen. There's a certain genius to our country, and part of that genius is that we educate our people, every generation, at higher and higher levels so they can fill the jobs that are required in the economy of their day. When I went to college at Catholic University of America, my dad, God bless him, was able to pay almost all of that tuition annually without having to go into any real appreciable debt that I can recall. And that was his goal. He didn't want me to come out of college with a bunch of debt. Now, when I got out of college, I went to law school, university. Who else went to law school here? You were a lawyer. There's a fellow lawyer. I'm now a recovering lawyer. But when I went to law school, thank goodness, I got into the state university. I got into the University of Maryland. And I was able, by working through law school, to be able to pay my law school tuition. Maybe a little bit of overhang in paying off the debt when I was out, but not a whole heck of a lot. So that's very different than the world that you're in today. In our country, what has happened in essence over the last 10, 15 years is that our federal government has stopped making the investments it used to in higher education, and our state governments have stopped making the investments they used to in higher education, and as a result, your universities make up for that loss of investment from federal and state by dumping higher tuition costs on all of you. I shouldn't say dumping. I'm sure it's not anything that they do with any relish or any zeal, but you can't wave a magic wand to freeze tuition costs. You have to pay. So that's the predicament we're in. And as a result, we now have 1.3 trillion in college debt that our kids graduate with. We're the only nation on the planet that actually has our kids graduate out of college with a mountain of debt that in many cases makes it impossible for them to fully and immediately participate in growing our economy, because then they can't buy homes, can't buy cars, and the like. And so anyway, that's what we're here to talk about today. And before I get too carried away, if I sound like really passionate and there's a vein popping out of the middle of my forehead on this, that's because my wife and I, very proud of our 2 daughters who graduated, one from Georgetown, her first choice, one from Charleston, her first choice. And my wife and I are also in the same boat as so many other parents. I mean, we took out huge loans in order to to send them to college. And thank goodness they both worked hard, got both of them got through in 4 years, and we're very, very proud of them. But look, there's a certain genius to this land of opportunity, and one of them is a stable, predictable rule of law. The others are the investments we make in R&D or in infrastructure, and another one is having sensible immigration laws that allow the best and the brightest to come here from all over the world. But make no mistake about it, another big, big part of our formula is the land of opportunity, is the generational progress we make together by educating our people in every generation at higher and better levels so they can more fully participate in both the creative and the demand sides of our economy. So with that as some opening framing thoughts, we're going to go around and hear your stories. And then I want to share with you what I'm laying out for our country. So which way do we go here? Who's first? Did they tell you? John, do you know who's first?
I think we can just open it up.
Who wants to go first? I'll tell you what they put on my... They told me Megan Brabeck? Brabeck.
Yes, that's me.
So Megan, what's your story?
Well, I graduated from the University of New Hampshire in 2013. I was very excited, also 4 years, finished it. And I did a double major in political science and international affairs and 2 minors in women's studies and Spanish.
My goodness.
So I was like, I'm going to get my money's
2
worth.
majors and 2 minors. 2 majors, 2 minors.
Yeah.
How many years did it take you?
4 years.
Boy.
Yep.
Does
So
anybody
it's
ever have a
very
single
focused.
major anymore, Professor?
A few.
Very few.
So I chose UNH because it was in state. So that was the smart financial decision to make. But I graduated with $44,000 in student debt, which is, I believe the national average is somewhere around 30, or at least the state average is, I think, is 33.
And I saw
So-
29,000 somewhere.
Yeah, I think the state is 33. So that's pretty high. I'm very fortunate that my parents are paying a huge majority of it. So my monthly payments are actually fairly low, which is very fortunate because I now work at UNH. I have 3 part-time jobs at UNH, and I babysit in my free time. And so, making ends meet with, it's kind of a compounded issue, I think. It's that student debt is really high. So young people are graduating, they're having these huge monthly payments that they're trying to pay off. We're not buying cars, like you said. We're not buying houses. People are getting married older and older for a number of reasons, but I think one of which being, like, who on earth can afford a wedding?
Hear that. My oldest daughter, by the way, gets married next June.
Oh, congratulations. That's so exciting. But then also, I think finding employment after graduating is really hard. And I think a number of people can attest to being underemployed, having
Right.
these degrees that we're not necessarily utilizing to their fullest. So I don't want to cut off anyone else's stories, but that's kind of where I'm standing today.
Cool. Thank you. How about Joe Playa?
Right here.
Hey, Joe.
Hi, how are you? Well, my story is I graduated from college many years ago, but I started going to school for criminal justice. I was a military policeman in the Marines and thought that I might have a career in law enforcement. And while I was in school, I really fell in love with the legal side of the classes. So I was a single parent. I did get the GI Bill, but at that time it was not the post 9/11 GI Bill. It was a GI Bill that probably supplied about roughly $400 a month towards school while you were going.
Mhm.
So if you can do the math on that, that really doesn't even kind of put a dent in how much college costs. I think it was $30,000 a year for undergrad. When I decided I wanted to become a lawyer in the middle of studying criminal justice, I switched to a school that had a pre-law focus. And I was less than a year from graduation when I did that, but then I had 2 years tacked on because a lot of the same classes I took, they made me retake just because I transferred schools.
I hate that.
So, yeah. So,
What is that called? Alignment, doctor? Is it alignment, or is it, what is it when you do or you don't recognize credits from another university?
Yeah, it's a credit audit effort.
Well, we audit the credit hours.
Audit the
and
credit
we try to
hours.
reconcile what's going to count.
Uh-huh. Well, what's the process of is it called accreditation? That's not accreditation. Is the school. Alignment is the term we usually use when we talk about going from high school to college.
Oh, reciprocity?
Articulation.
Articulation agreements.
Articulation
That's
agreements.
between two schools.
Sorry, Joe.
That's fine. So by the time all was said and done, it took me 6 years going to school full-time to get a four-year
Mhm.
degree. My student loan debt, because I was a single parent who needed some help with cost of living, was over $100,000. And then I decided to go to law school as well. And by the time I finished law school, my student loan debt was $250,000. So even though I'm a lawyer now, I have my own practice and I do pretty well, half my income goes to paying student loan debt every month.
Really? Yeah,
I'm not in a position to be able to help my daughter, who is now at age where she could go to school.
Yeah, that's not good for generational progress, huh? Yeah. I'm not far away from you. I mean, I think our total for two daughters is around $150. We borrowed for room and board, that sort of stuff too. Bill, what's your non-Irish music story?
Well,
What's your
non-Irish
student
music story
loan?
is, I'm one of those parents who paying the bulk of some of it as we went. We were able to pay about $85,000, $90,000 out of her pocket over an 8-year period. My daughter Ariel, who's here this morning also, went through
Music
in
teacher.
4 years and got a degree in music education. And my son Solomon got a degree in electrical mechanical engineering and just graduated in this year and got a job with IBM.
That's
Fortunately.
awesome.
Yeah. And they both borrowed the Max and the Stafford loan, and we made everything else up either with out-of-pocket or debt. And a total of about $205,000, but the two of them through school. My wife and I are looking at about $60,000 we have to pay off. We're older. I'm retired. Let me tell you, Social Security is not going to help pay any of that. And my wife has an excellent job. She's a good bread earner, but the loan payment is one of the biggest things we have to struggle with each month.
Right.
So it's a factor in making life decisions for us.
And you owe it to the government, right? So and we all owe these dollars to the government.
Yeah, we owe
So
all
it's
these
sort of
dollars to the government,
including interest at 8%.
And actually,
That's pretty good. I guess only the government can charge you 8% interest that you can never discharge in bankruptcy.
I have two charts I want to share with you this morning, Governor. One is came out of some financial organization published through the New York Times, and it shows how you were talking about one of the problems is the state aid that's been decreased over the decades to the schools, but also this is an adjusted for inflation increase, showing 400% increase in basic college costs over past several decades. And the second chart came out of the Federal Reserve, out of the St. Louis office, and it shows the decrease, which is, I think this is pretty astonishing, decrease in civilian labor participation by people with bachelor's degree and higher, 25 and older, and it went from 82% in 1994 down to 75% currently. That's an 8.5% decrease in civilian labor.
I think I've seen this one. Yeah. Although, this chart does go from 74 to 82, so do not despair.
But it's going in the wrong direction.
It's going in the wrong direction, not the right direction, in terms of full participation and inclusion in our economy. Bill, thanks a lot. Ariel, you want to add anything to that? What instrument does your father play? Does he play music?
He doesn't. He's a big lover of music, and sometimes we get to sing together. But
Okay.
no instruments.
What instrument do you play?
I am
Tons
piano
of
and
them?
voice, so flute and guitar and everything else.
Yeah.
But I just finished up my alternative 5-method certification planning with paying about $200 to the state to go through the process and finalize my certification, while also trying to pay off about $25,000 in debt myself with my number varies, but 6 to 8 part-time positions that I kind of jump between on a daily basis. So it's been kind of hard, not really able to, at 26, be able to make some of the purchases and big lifetime achievements that I'd like to be making, because I have pennies in my pocket to kind of put towards those things. Each month is pretty difficult to try and come up with the payments.
You still at home?
No, I actually reside
with my significant other in Pennacook.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, it's his house. It's it's kind of like that situation where I'm not really in a position to assist with living costs yet.
Because you're doing the debt thing.
Because I'm just paying off all the debt.
Oui. Hey, thank you. How about Bianca?
That's me.
Bianca.
Yeah, I'm guessing here for student debt too. I graduated from Franklin Pierce University in 2014 with a degree in political science and intelligence and security studies. I'm a first-generation American. My parents immigrated from Spain in 1987 with my older sister. I'm the first to go to college and the second with a high school diploma. And I, really, really wanted to go to college, and my parents, though they wanted to, can't afford to help me with any of my debt. They said, I'll keep you alive, so they helped me stay alive. So that's great. But I am burdened with $101,300 in debt. I accumulated $30,000 in debt just during my time at school. So from my first freshman year loan, accumulated 3 years, sophomore 2 years. So by the time I got out, it was $30,000 extra. And because of interest and how they determine what I will pay at the end, it'll be an extra 30. So
Yeah.
that bank is making 60 grand off of me by itself. Just from the interest that I'm
You
accumulating.
took out a bank loan, not a...
I don't have. I
Not a-
only have
one of the federal
20% of my loans are federal, but I maxed out.
Well, you might have an easier time renegotiating with the bank.
Yeah.
For lower interest.
I can't refinance my loans, which isn't like a thing, even though, you can refinance that house and my payments are pretty much the same. So why can't I do that? But it's really difficult. Over 50% of my paycheck, I'm an admissions counselor at Franklin Pierce University. I make very, very good money, but half of it goes to my debt. So, I'm kind of stuck with what my next part is. I'm supposed to play a great role in the economy and buy a house and a car and, kind of do better, but I'm really stuck.
Multiply these stories by thousands and thousands and thousands, and then it's not quite a mystery why our economy is not growing as it used to at the pace that it once did. Ashley, where's Ashley? Ashley.
Hi. So I just graduated from St. Ace with a degree in history and minors in IR and Spanish this past May. So right now I'm just doing an internship for the summer, and then in the fall I'm going to Suffolk Law School. In terms of debt, it played a big role in both my undergraduate and my graduate decisions. At Suffolk I received a pretty good scholarship, so that's why I'm headed off there. And I mean, I'm going to be very happy there, I think, I hope so, but that was a big role in my decision. And unfortunately, I think that it's going to be playing a role in terms of my job, because I will have the loan debt from undergrad and grad, because I'm just putting my loans on deferment. And it's going to play a role in what kind of jobs I'm going to take after law school. So right now I'm kind of doing what everyone else has to do if they put your loans on deferment. I'm just kind of putting it out of my mind, It's
And hoping
there.
the economy gets better by then.
I'm putting it out of my mind. I can't do anything about it now. I'm just, it's there, but it's not in front of my mind.
Right. Kevin.
Hi. Where to begin? So I also just graduated from St. Anselm College in May with a degree in politics. And starting in the fall, I'll be pursuing graduate studies in politics overseas, actually, in the United Kingdom. I hope to get my PhD.
That's pretty cool.
It is. It's very exciting, too.
Where are you going?
University of Sheffield, in Sheffield.
Sounds impressive.
But I mean, when I had decided to pursue graduate studies, one of the reasons I decided to go abroad was because I knew I couldn't afford those loans here.
Interesting.
And it's quite a bit cheaper there, and it's frustrating because as much as
Say that again. So it's cheaper for you to go to Sheffield, England for your postgraduate degree than it is to go here. Wow, they're willing to lend you at lower rates, or the tuition overall is lower?
The tuition overall is lower. I still have to take out loans to cover it, but it is quite a bit cheaper. I mean, it's frustrating because as much as I would like to stay here and do those studies in the United States, you know, I can't. It just
Right, we're the only nation on the planet that saddles our kids with the amount of land that we saddle our kids with now for doing the right thing and going to college.
I mean, it seems like we're punishing good behavior.
Hey.
Which I don't know
Hear,
why.
hear.
I mean,
Yeah. Thanks for that. Chris Galdieri,
That's me.
professor.
So I can talk about this from a couple of angles. In terms of undergraduate, I did my undergraduate degree at Georgetown, graduated in 1996, came out of there with about, I think, $18,000 in student debt.
And that was low for them.
That was low for that. I mean, I was lucky I had some
My
grants.
daughter
I
went
worked
to
study.
Georgetown.
So it was a different time. And then about 6 years later, I went to
How old are you,
graduate
Chris?
school. I turned 41 next month.
Well, you're a young-looking
Well,
41.
thank you very much. Then 6 years later, I went to graduate school in Minnesota. The good thing about going to a PhD program is you get a stipend, your tuition is covered. Your stipend comes from being a teaching assistant. While I was there is when the financial crisis hit, and suddenly the threshold for teaching assistants went from something like 30 students per teaching assistant to 75. So suddenly, a lot of us were scrambling to get positions. A lot of us found ourselves taking out additional loans to just be able to survive while completing our studies. And then talking about deferment, when I got a position after that, it was a part-time position teaching the school just outside Minneapolis. I get the phone call, it's time to pay back your student loans, and I was getting paid for a half-time position. So it's not a crisis. We're doing fine, but I would say that the student loan thing is, it is a chunk of money that we are not putting aside for our daughter's education, or spending on a second car,
Or making
saving
our
up for
economy
down.
go.
Exactly. It's just not doing anything. It's sort of an automatic deduction every month that doesn't really go anywhere or do anything.
At a time when capital's never been more widely available at lower interest rates
Yes.
than now. It's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Chris, thank you. But Dave Allen? Dave Allen here? No, I didn't think Dave Allen was here. Anybody else want to pipe in? So, high school guys, you totally intimidated now?
A little bit.
No, don't be intimidated. Well, look, let me share with you what I am laying out in the course of this campaign. I believe that every campaign is an opportunity for deeper and better understanding about how we build wealth, including generational wealth, health, security, and advanced learning. So what I as I sit here with you, I think I can state pretty categorically that there is no one running for president in our party or in the Republican Party who can claim that during his time in office that we actually held down the cost of college tuition better than virtually any other state in the union. Stated another way, we went 4 years in a row without a penny's increase to college tuition in Maryland. And we didn't do it by waving a magic wand or hitting the easy button. We did it by the state stepping up again to make the investments. We did it by working collaboratively with our public institutions and our community colleges on things like the articulation agreements. So when somebody takes on loans to get college credits at a community college while they're working and supporting their family, that they're actually recognized when they apply to, when they go to the four-year college. So we worked on things like that. We worked on economy and efficiency initiatives in our universities. And we set the goal that we needed to make college more affordable for more families rather than more expensive. So if you look over the 8 years that I was governor, governors, unlike legislators actually are the people who have to execute, right? Introduce budgets, get things done. Over those 8 years, no state, with the exception of Montana, which clipped us only at the end, did a better job at holding down the cost of college tuition than we did. And during those 8 years, we maintained the highest median income in the country and also had a faster rate of job creation than our neighbors to the states north and south to us. So making college more affordable for more people is actually really good for our economy. It's what allows our economy to grow. Our economy isn't money, it's people. It's all of our people. And the more our people can participate not only with the better skills for the jobs and that their passions call them to, but also participate in the demand side of our economy, buying the things, the homes, the cars, and those sorts of things. So what I propose for our country is this, that look, the difference between a dream and a goal is a deadline. And I've found in my executive experience that when you set a goal, when you set a deadline, good and smart people will come together to figure out a multitude of ways to move towards goal. And we need to set the goal as a nation of making debt-free college and a universal option for every family that should choose it. And so how do we go about doing that? Congress sets the rates for student loans. Congress should reduce the rates for student loans. It's outrageous. Some of you guys coming up, I mean, right now they reset it down to 6%, lucky you. Most of the loans that some of us took out were at 8%, at a time when the big banks can borrow at next to nothing. So Congress should reset the rates. This should not be a backdoor way of raising revenues on the backs of the kids that are doing the right thing and going to college, and the families that are sending their kids to college. So Congress should reset those rates. And I also believe, and President Obama made this easier for a lot of families and students, I believe that income-based repayment plans should be the norm, should be the automatic. It should not be something that you need to read about or get to the right counselor to help you to, that you go into an income-based repayment plan. So that means if you become a teacher, as my daughter did, or as you're becoming a teacher, that you never have to repay whatever your loan is. You never have to repay more than, say, 10% of your income on an annualized basis, or if you become a police officer. So that's two. A third thing that every state can and should do, as we demonstrated by doing it 4 years in a row in Maryland, every state should freeze tuition. Go ahead, try it. I mean, your state government has a lot more leverage to work with university presidents to control costs than any individual consumer or family does. A fourth thing is that I believe that states, all of us, all of our states, all of these United States, should set a goal at their public universities of tying tuition to median family incomes. In other words, I think since 2000, median family incomes have declined from about 57,000 to 51,000. I believe that tuition rates should be tied to median incomes. Another leading action is the federal government needs to step up and restore all of the cuts that we've made, that we the people, through our representatives in Congress, have made to Pell Grants. Pell Grants are the largest sum of federal dollars that come to your universities, and then your universities distribute them based on need. But those have been cut and cut and cut and cut as our nation, through sequester and other things, reduces these sorts of so-called discretionary investments that our parents and grandparents understood were essential investments to make our economy grow. I also think there's things we could do on work study. So all of that is under goal one, that we move to a point where affordable college is a universal option. Goal number two is I would like to see us increase our completion rate by 25% over the next 10 years. Right now we have kind of a backwards incentive for universities. The longer they keep their seats filled with people paying tuition, the more money they make. And in fact, those articulation agreements, the fewer articulation agreements there are, the more they get to charge you twice for taking the same course that they won't recognize in another university. So it's almost as if the incentives are backwards. We pay universities more the longer they can keep students attending and racking up the debt. So just as we're starting to see in healthcare, where hospitals made more money, the more sick beds they could fill up for the longer period of time, we're switching that in some places, with wellness being the goal. I believe our goal should be degree completion. And I believe that in 10 years, working together, institutions, states, federal government, and all of us, that we can increase our completion rates by 10%. And in the process of doing that, usher in some really needed reforms that help you move towards goal. What are some of those reforms? Making better use of that so-called wasted year of high school. Senior year? Sorry, guys. You might already be doing this. More and more states are figuring out ways that kids can earn college credit. I was in Iowa the other day talking to a dad whose son earned a whole year of college credit before even going to college. And guess what? It was recognized at the college that he went on to attend. So we need to create multiple pathways for degree attainment. And in some cases, Joe, like yours, where you're working a job, you got a family, you've got other things going on, more and more colleges, I believe, should be encouraged to use online options where people study at their own pace, where they move ahead at their own pace, where they demonstrate their competency and then earn the credits, whether they learned it by staying in a class for a whole semester, or whether they learned it at home when they got home tired at the end of the night, but still put on the coffee and stayed up an extra 2 hours while the kids slept so that they could earn those 3 credits without having to pay through the nose for them. There's also things that I think that we can and should do to, one of the problems with a lot of the debt that's racked up is people have the worst of both worlds. They have the debt and they have no degree. Because a baby came along, life had its pleasant surprises, and so they had to drop out. We need to make it easier for people to return to school, especially people with kids. And so having more childcare options on campus is another action that could move us to goal. And I believe that by setting these 2 goals, these 2 very important goals, identifying the leading actions, prodding the states to restore cuts. A lot of times states get off scot-free. People are so confused. They assume they don't know about the dollars that their state used to invest in higher ed, and there's no red flag that says you're cutting it. And then when you go to the governors of some of these states, if you want to see the states where tuition was increased the most, they're the states where the governors cut support for higher education the most. Had to go somewhere, right? And so it went on the back of tuition. But we need to get states out of the unaccountable shadows here and realize and understand as thinking citizens that they're part of this equation too. Federal needs to step up, states need to step up, and universities need to help us by creating more pathways to degree attainment and by working together to achieve those goals of affordable college, of debt-free college as a universal option, and also increasing degree attainment by 25% within 10 years. And when you have a goal and you have a deadline and you map exactly where you're going and hold each piece of this collaborative accountable, then we know whether we're making progress to goal or whether we're not. And I believe we can make tremendous progress to goal. And as a nation, we will hold up the models that are working at it best, the states that are succeeding the most, the universities that are being most innovative in bringing this about. And you have some of them in your own state. University of Southern New Hampshire. We have University of Maryland University College. So look, that's my proposal. And I conclude by saying there's a big difference between saying it and doing it. I'm the only candidate in this race that's actually done it, that held tuition costs by making greater investments, by promoting course redesign and the sort of collaborative innovations They create multiple pathways to debt-free college. So thoughts,
Thank you, Governor.
feedbacks,
I
questions?
think you set
Bill?
a great precedent by enabling state aid in Maryland for the children of illegal immigrants, and you weren't afraid to.
The DREAM
So-
Act. We didn't talk about that. We passed a local version of the DREAM Act so that kids in state could get the same in-state tuition regardless of where they were in the naturalization process if their parents were paying,
And you weren't afraid to assess taxes where they were needed to pay for the programs that produce those types of results. And I appreciate you setting those type of examples.
Thank you, man. We all had to pay another penny on the sales tax, but we made college more affordable, and we made our public schools the best in the nation 5 years in a row. Never happened before, but we did it in a recession. So, thanks for noticing that. Yes.
I especially liked the goals you had set on number 2, especially keeping people in college and helping like work study, helping people who may have families continue. One thing that popped into my mind as you talked about work study is actually my graduate experience is going to be a lot different than my undergrad. I had work study here at St. A's. I had 2 jobs that I was able to do part-time. But at Suffolk, which is, I'm assuming not very different than most law schools, they don't have work study. They don't have on-campus housing. And so you're expected to pay your tuition and your housing and your food all on loans because they discourage you having a job while you're in law school. So it's very backwards.
Don't let them do that. Life's too short to do law school full-time. You can always find other things to do when you're in law school.
It's very backwards, the way that it's being run there. They don't even offer on-campus jobs that are maybe part-time or less demanding, and any part-time jobs you have outside you must disclose to the school. So I find it very backwards, and as I'm going to take a line from
You have to disclose to the school?
Yeah, and how many hours where you're working,
Yes. I didn't know
what's
that.
demanded.
Is that common now?
That's an ABA requirement.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, it's during the first year at least. It's pretty strict.
First year. Okay, well, first year's hard.
Yeah.
That's like eating sand. That first year. After that, it's all just mix and match your primary colors.
But something to be done about that, or looking at the graduate, would be, I think, also something to be included. But something to do about helping those costs if you're discouraging, getting a job or, doing anything outside to make money. That there needs to be some sort of compensation.
Yeah,
or
work
something
study.
To make it easier.
Yeah, work study's another important piece of this, especially for work study and its intersection with historically black colleges and universities, which have a unique mission and at the same time, have a larger percentage of families that are kind of first time, college and face some greater financial hurdles than the population overall. Did you have something?
I did. I'm Diana Terrell. I teach in the education department here at
Hello,
St.
Diana.
So didn't get a chance to meet you earlier. I was interested, having just taught an online course this past summer on the education policy, I was interested in your online proposal, or trying to shore up our online programs in southern New Hampshire next door. I guess I was also wondering about you were mentioning that your loans have a lot to do with paying tuition, room and board. So if you're taking online courses, you're also circumventing paying room and board, because the idea is that you're taking it from your family's home, I guess. So I'm wondering about how to sort of develop the whole college experience with online, where the student stays at home. Do you think that being on campus in a sort of traditional undergraduate program is a big part of the college experience, or do you think that that's something that people are willing to forgo?
Yeah, I think
to diminish their costs.
I think as in so many things. I mean, we went around the room. Some of you were telling me what your majors were, and everybody has 2 or 3 majors. The pendulum swung so far in our society towards specialization, and increasingly we realize that the way forwards comes from blending things, putting things back together, putting things together that perhaps were never put together before. And one of those things, I mean, I mean, we're very proud at home in our state of University of Maryland University College, which is our online. I think it's the largest public online university in America. At least it was a couple of years ago. It is a separate university from University of Maryland College Park, part of the same system. But I think increasingly universities need to embrace technology and need to embrace alternative pathways to earning certain degree credits. Particularly, I mean, a lot of times people come out of high school having to take having to take courses over again. What do you call them?
Remediation.
Thank you. The remediation courses. So anyway, I don't want to go too far down in the weeds of detail here, but I think, as you've seen, I think there's a lot to be gained both on affordability and degree attainment from giving people the flexibility to move forward at their own pace, to use online tools, and to, without having necessarily to enroll at the beginning of the semester,
Right.
have your time in the seat, take the exam. People are doing so many other things, and so many people have half the credits they need to their degrees. Let's make it easier and not harder for people to go online, earn those credits, demonstrate their competence, and maybe universities can figure out a way to get reimbursed on the providing of the test, or that allows people to come in and demonstrate their competence once they've learned at home and once they're ready to go. So I think it's all about more blended learning, recognizing that not each of us wants to have the 4 years of Harry Potter Goes to Hogwarts. You know, that was a great model. That was very nice. And for some families, you know, parents and kids may say, you know what, I do want that 4-year thing for my child. Our family's willing to go into Hawk forever in order to finance that. But for other families, it should be an option that they look at the path ahead and they say, look, Jack, by getting college credit, a year of it under your belt before you're out of here, you can then take that and it'll be accepted at this university in state or that university in state. Your mother and I are willing to help you. This is what the cost is. If you do a few of these courses online, then you can get out of college, and what we see happening is that you won't have that huge mountain of debt over you if you do this and this while you go, or maybe you work in the family restaurant along the way as well. So I think we need to create more options, you know, more pathways, so that right now there aren't even the pathways for a lot of families to go to college without a huge debt. It's only a question of how big the mountain will be.
Just don't forget about private loans too, because those are intense. You know, a lot of federal loans aren't the bulk of student debt, so.
Yeah, private loans.
Private loans are hard.
Maybe we should make it possible for you to refinance the privates into the federal.
I'd like that. Thank
If you weren't gouged, if you weren't gouged at the federal. Have you tried that?
What?
Have you tried refinancing your private ones into federal?
I can't.
That's just not allowed by law?
Right. I just
It
can't.
doesn't surprise me. Yeah,
Can't do it.
we make it hard, not easy. Well, are we gonna do gaggle here?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just stay seated?
We're gonna move to the side. Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna move me to the side.
Yeah. So we can do one more question.
Anybody else have any thoughts? Suggestions?
Well, I have a question about the point you made about restoring the cuts. Where would this money come from? Because we're obviously stretched at the end with the 18 point whatever $1 trillion of debt. Where would this money come from to fund the restoring and cuts?
Yeah, it comes from us. Comes from all of us. I mean, some of the biggest driver of our national debt was the war that we fought on a credit card that we didn't pay for along the way. We're going to be a long time paying down that debt, but the only way that we're going to effectively reduce the debt is to grow our economy. And if we continue to saddle generations, whole cohorts of kids with huge debt, we're not going to grow the economy enough to reduce that debt. There's a number of different proposals that people have made about our tax code. I don't see a good reason why we tax capital gains, earnings from investments, way down here, instead of at the same level that we tax hard work and sweat and, I mean, money earned from toil and hard work. There's carried interest loophole, the hedge funds. Some have proposed a transaction tax on the high volume trading that goes on Wall Street that could fund these things. Through 8 years as governor, I cut our state budget by more than any governor in Maryland history. That's not a political opinion, that's a mathematical fact. And yet, we were also able to forge the consensus to do things like raising the sales tax by a penny in order to increase funding for education by record amounts and to make college more affordable for more of us. And we came out of those 8 years and out of the recession also with a AAA bond rating. One of only 7 states that had a AAA bond rating. So this is what your elected chief executives do. We set priorities. We're fiscally responsible. When we need to make investments, we make the argument that this is in our national interest. This is in the best interest of all of us together. And that's what we'll do on this. I believe I have rarely touched an issue in my travels across the country over the last year. I don't believe there is an issue that people understand as instinctively and as intuitively as making college more affordable again for more families. I mean, it's such a sharp contrast between just 2 generations, my dad's era and the GI Bill, and now your generation stuck with a mountain of bills. You know, it's a huge contrast. A great and generous people understand that their national interest is served by educating the next generation at higher and better levels so that they can fully participate in the economy as soon as they're out. And that's what we're going to do. Every campaign's about forging a new consensus. Sometimes people think that politics is about putting your finger in the wind and figuring out which way the poles are blowing. I believe that politics is about forging a new consensus. Progress is a choice. Job creation is a choice. Affordable college or more expensive college. They're choices. We've made good choices in the past. In fact, every other industrialized nation on the planet followed our example to make college more affordable. And then we took a detour and tried to turn higher education into a toll road that you guys have to bear and shoulder the whole cost of, rather than it being a national and a state priority. All right, well, look, this was fun.
Thank you.
We can do this. We're Americans. We make our own destiny, and we make our own future. Thank you guys for waking up bright and early to see me. You're out of class for the summer, though, huh?
Yeah.
Are all of you out of class? Some of you still taking that. You got to get to court. Hang on. All right, thank you all very, very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.